Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Fallen London. Today we are going to be looking at March's exceptional story, The Thing That Came In From the Fog. Now, as always at the start of these, I like to say if you like these stories and want to support Failbetter, go become an exceptional friend yourself, play the story yourself. There will be spoilers ahead. You don't only get access to these stories every month, but you get 10 cards in your deck and you get access to the House of Chimes and other things. It's well worth the money. So, without further ado, let's continue with the story. An impenetrable fog. It draped itself upon London like a smotherer's pillow. Unexpected, unfriendly, and utterly unyielding. Fog? And no ordinary fog. The kind that make Londoners reminisce. Remember the great pea souper of 66? The black porridge of 71? The lung custard of 84. As the days pass, the reminiscences stutter to a halt. Even the oldest Londoners can't remember a fog half as bad. Alas, you had an evening engagement you really couldn't miss, and now you find yourself faced with the onerous prospect of navigating back to your lodgings. Oh dear, so we'd have two choices here. Obviously you have the route memorised. Pah! A little fog can't stop you. You know these streets like the back of your eyelids. And if we had a dog, which we do not have a maverick bloodhound. Or at least I do not. He could guide us back as home, but no, we have the route memorised. In some fogs, you can't see the hand in front of your face. In this one, you can't even see past the tip of your nose. Nevertheless, you find your way. When you feel the spray of the Z, you know you're in Wolfstack Docks. When you smell the bitter aroma of coffee and unwashed philosophy, you know you're in Vale Garden. And when you hear the sigh of a knife entering something soft, you know you've wandered down one of the more troubling alleys of spite and should probably retrace your steps, sharpish. At long last, you make your way back to your lodgings. With great relief, you head inside. As you're hanging up your coat, a few tendrils of fog creep through the door. You busy yourself with your normal evening rituals, idly contemplating the events of the day. Then, just before bedtime, you spot something out of the corner of your eye. The fog in your home has not dissipated. In fact, it's coalesced into a wraith-like human shape. To make matters worse, it's brewed itself a cup of tea and is sitting in your favourite armchair. You got three options. Examine the man-shaped fog. You wave a hand in front of its head. No reaction. You try waving a hand through its head. Similarly, no reaction. We can try and communicate. The traditional English method. Talking loudly and slowly, making vague flapping motions with both hands. That is 100% legitimate. And shoo it from your home. An impossible being made of mist is bad enough, but it just ate your last biscuit. I've got to go with a try communicate because this just makes me smile. We're going to try and communicate. You introduce yourself and ask its name. The man-shaped fog pays you no mind. It continues to sip its tea. You are friendly, then cordial, then outright passive-aggressive. You resort to shouting at it in an unseemly manner. You levy insults, you offer bribes, you make threats that would turn a devil's blood cold. The man-shaped fog offers no reaction to any of this. Next, you try the written word. The fog eagerly puts pen to paper, but its writing is just ink splodges and smears. The man-shaped fog continues to sit in your armchair, sipping tea from your cup, occasionally glancing up at your clock. Outside, the fog presses against the window. Is there a whole army of fog creatures trying to swarm into your home and help themselves to your amenities? Just to be safe, you check the draft excluder is in place. It could be the only thing standing between you and barbarity. Let's examine the man-shaped fog. Although the swirling contours of the man-shaped fog can be deceiving to the eye, its shape is remarkably well formed. It has the vague impression of a forehead, nose, mouth, mustache. You can count its fingers without difficulty. It boasts the usual number. You can even make out the outlines of a suit and bow tie. Occasionally, through the shifting fog, cracks of dim light shine through, like brief glimpses of sunlight through thick cloud. It takes a sip from the teacup. The tea falls through its misty body and dampens your armchair. Most curious. We have a new option now. Resign yourself to living with it for now. It seems there's nothing to be done about your uninvited guest. Perhaps it will vanish when the fog lifts? I think we're going to resign ourselves to living with it. How bad can it be? The man-shaped fog proves a most inconsiderate lodger. It ignores you completely, but helps itself to your biscuits at every opportunity. It rearranges your books to its own liking. It leaves candles burning unattended. You put up with it for a few days, until finally you wake up one morning to gaslight shining brightly through your window. Londoners are cheering and singing in the street. The great fog has cleared. But when you rush downstairs, you find that your personal slice of fog remains. It's eating your biscuits again. Crumbs fall through its body and litter the carpet. That's the last straw. You simply must be rid of this thing. And it appears now we're going to be travelling on an adventure of ridding ourselves of an unwanted guest. The man-shaped fog is a terrible house guest. You're going to need to call in professional help if you hope to get rid of it. Ooh, what can we go with here? We can contact the Department of Menace Eradication. They specialise in protecting decent folk from gall-blighters, fungus towers, sorrow spiders. A low-flying cloud should be no obstacle. We can seek help of the scholars from Benthic. There's surely a scientific explanation. You promise a crate of wine to the first professor who can find it. Or perhaps a good old-fashioned exorcism. It's sort of like a ghost, right? Even if it's not so much haunting you as imposing upon you. Let's go with an exorcism. The Bishop of Southwark arrives at your lodgings, flanked by an impressive coterie of priests. "Step aside," he shouts. "This shall be over quickly." He has a spiked Bible in one hand and a blood-red candle in the other. "Out! Out! Damn spirit!" he roars, approaching the fog. "I adjure thee by Almighty God!" The man-shaped fog ignores the bishop completely, wandering back and forth between your rooms, forcing the bishop and his aides to scuttle after it in a faintly undignified manner. The bishop issues commands and reads passages from the Bible until even his formidable voice is hoarse. The fog begins calmly brewing itself a cup of tea while the bishop is reaching a crescendo. This is enough to finally break the man. "This isn't an evil spirit," the bishop tells you, snapping his Bible shut. "I don't know what to tell you. Go speak to a meteorologist." Seems fair. Well, We get to ask the other two. Maybe the Department of Menace Eradication can help me. I'm not entirely sure what they're going to do about a man made of fog, but let's find out. The woman from the Department of Menace Eradication has more scars than teeth. She arrives at your door with a knife and a big stick. She listens to your lengthy explanation, nodding seriously. Then she swings her stick at the fog, ignoring your warning that it won't work. When the fog reforms, she looks baffled and tries the knife, to similar results. Apparently, that's the limit of her imagination. Seems to me this one's out of our purview, she drawls. It's more like a nuisance than a menace, wouldn't you say? We aren't the Department of Nuisance Eradication. Maybe go speak to a priest. Right that. Let's seek the help of the benthic scholars. Science will prevail. I've never seen anything like this, says the meteorologist from Benthic when you confront her with the fog. You're saying you just walked through the door? He listens to your lengthy explanation, jotting down notes. This is the most exciting thing to happen to weather in London for a long time, she confides in you. My department's been severely underfunded ever since London fell. This could be enough to get me published. And what does she suggest you actually do? Well, what I understand about weather, usually you just wait for it to stop, she says. Other than that, I don't know. Get in touch with a menace eradicator? Yeah, well, we've tried that. I'm sensing a theme here. The eradicator, the meteorologist, and the bishop have all made their attempts to no avail. The man-shaped fog remains in your lodgings, utterly unperturbed, sitting and reading a book, its feet upon your desk. However, one thing has changed. Word about the fog has spread through London. Urchins press their gawping little faces against your windows. Journalists harass you at your doorstep, asking questions about the fog's favourite breakfast. You receive a formal letter from the Ministry of Public Decency demanding that you get rid of the fog at once. They do not offer to help nor explain how you're supposed to do so. We've been trying. The Ministry of Public Decency. So we can either welcome the attention of all of these people, roll up to witness the incredible man-shaped fog. Why yes, glad you asked. Its favourite breakfast is... Or we can hide the fog from public scrutiny. You have no desire to turn your lodgings into a circus attraction. We're going to welcome the attention. Maybe somebody will know something. It's nice while it lasts. For a week, you're the talk of the city. Unfortunately, Londoners are a fickle bunch. They grow bored of the fog once it becomes apparent it doesn't seem to do anything except read your books and smoke a pipe. Perhaps if you solved the mystery behind the fog, you could reignite public interest. That's easier said than done, however. Science and religion both let you down. Even the big stick didn't work. So far, you've been stymied at every turn, but perhaps you just haven't been asking the right questions. Oh my. That top option, oh, brilliant. You decide to start from first principles. Why has the man-shaped fog chosen to take up residence in your lodgings in particular? Presumably, it had all of London to pick from. There must be something about your lodgings that has attracted the man-shaped fog to your door. You just need to work out what. Well, we can try and get it drunk, which is a wonderful idea. In your experience, everyone reveals secrets when they're drunk. We can observe the fog when it thinks it's alone. What does it get up to when you're not around? And if we had an exotic tapestry, which we do not, you've noticed the fog lingers here, sometimes brushing its misty fingers over the monkey hair fabric. Well, I'm guessing we're just going to try and get it drunk, just out of pure curiosity. You wait until the fog has settled in your armchair. It sets its cup of tea on the table without a coaster. The swine! It begins flipping through a book. Dog-earing the pages! The cheek! While it's distracted, you boil a pot of rich red wine over the fire and use an old perfume bottle to suffuse the room with alcoholic vapours. As pink fumes mix with grey mist, the fog sets its book aside and lurches to its feet, wobbling alarmedly. The drunken fog stumbles to your cabinet of curiosities and collapses beside it, scrambling weakly at the door. It doesn't move again for 3 hours. Upon waking, it makes itself some vile hangover cure from milk and gravy. So let's observe the fog when it thinks it's alone. One morning, you make a great show of leaving for the day. You even bid a cheerful goodbye to the fog. As always, it ignores you. As soon as you've left, you double back and sneak into your lodgings through a strategically opened window. Silent as a dead librarian, you creep after the fog as it wanders through your house. After a quarter hour, the fog makes its way to your cabinet of curiosities and begins attacking the lock with a hairpin. You can only shake your head at its clumsy technique. Finally, frustrated, the fog wanders away again. He's after something in my cabinet of curiosities. Let's draw a conclusion. You think you know what drew the man-shaped fog to your lodgings. You search through your cabinet of curiosities while the man-shaped fog lurks, hopefully, by your shoulder. The fog seems unimpressed by your vast collection of obscurities and ephemera. Finally, as you pull out an unremarkable antique chess set, the fog reaches out and grabs it. You play an impromptu game of tug-of-war for a moment before finally wrestling it away. The fog is remarkably strong for something without solid bone in its body. So he likes my chess set. You examine the chess set that has been languishing in your cabinet. There's nothing special about it. A little unusual in design, perhaps. The kings and queens are styled as ornate fountains. The bishops and pawns are beautifully carved roses. The man-shaped fog stares jealously as you examine the pieces. Is it so interested? You try to remember how you came upon this chess set in the first place. We have a few options here. One is you picked it up from an antique shop. Perhaps rescued would be a better word. It was being used to prop up a table leg. Or it was a prize at the carnival for beating Villainous the Uncanny, famed and feared chess extraordinaire. I do not have options for the boatman, and I don't have a shrine to Saint Joshua. But if it was the boatman, it turned up one day wrapped in a black veil, a gift of sorts from a friend of sorts. Or it was stolen from an enemy agent in the great game, a symbolic move on your part. Any fool can checkmate their opponents. It's quite another thing to steal their entire board. Love it. Let's say we picked it up, or rescued, from an antique shop. The shop was called Raucous and Grimworth's. As you recall, after the perpetually absent proprietors, it was a poky little place in one of Vale Garden's side streets. Hopefully, it won't have vanished when you try to return there. It's awful when that happens. Okay, let's go check out Raucous and Grimworth's. Raucous and Grimworth's is a shabby little establishment where the definition of antique can be stretched to fit almost anything. Its items aren't broken, they're weathered. They're not hazardous to one's health if touched with bare hands. They have character. When you ask about the chess set, the shopkeeper, who is, as far as you can tell, neither Raucous nor Grimworth, tells you that all his antiques are sourced confidentially. He's probably just after a bribe. So offer him some irresistible antiques. Actual antiques. The sort that he could be proud of. And it turns out that they are relics of the Fourth City. The shopkeeper admires your relics one by one as he stows them under the counter. I acquired that chess set at an auction in a repossessed house, he tells you. They were selling off the possessions of some kind of occultist who'd been missing for months. An occultist? What even does he know about this fellow? But the shopkeeper only shrugs. That's as much as I know, but I can give you the address. It's a step in the right direction. The burning house. Arriving at the occultist's address, you find smoke billowing overhead. Flames lick at the windows. When you open the door, a blast of cinders and superheated air drives you back. The man-shaped fog followed you from your lodgings. It stares at the burning house, managing to look aghast. This surely can't be a coincidence. You glance around for the arsonist. There, a figure in the alleyway. As you lock eyes, the startled lurker takes off at a dead run. Ooh, here's a challenge we don't have a 100% chance to complete. Chase down the mysterious figure. The man-shaped fog drifts above the rooftops, pointing out where the arsonist has gone. A 74% chance. Down the alleyways, feet skidding on the cobbles, up a drain pipe and over the rooftops in a flash. You cut the arsonist off at the next junction and they stop in their tracks. Defeated. The arsonist is a middle-aged woman in a suffocatingly large coat. Her cap is pulled low over her eyes. "What do you want from me?" she hisses. Before you can answer, the man-shaped fog drifts down beside you, and she stares at it in dismay. "So it's true," she mutters. "Finally has returned." The two options: demand to know why she burned down the house. You threaten to turn her over to the constables if she's not honest with you. Or ask how she knows the fog. Who is it? And why is it all foggy? I want to know why she burned the house down. "We read about the fog in your newspaper," says the arsonist. "One of our members grew curious and peered through the window. Recognised him at once, despite the strangeness of his appearance." He pauses. You remind her that if she'd rather not explain this to you, she can explain it to the constables. "He was one of the founders of our secret order," she says reluctantly. "Although these days we reject his teachings entirely. Still, We didn't want any publicity, so I was sent to burn his old house down before he could be linked back to us. Well, it didn't work. What is the nature of their order? She sighs, defeated. I can show you, but you're sworn to secrecy. Secret headquarters. After your secrecy is assured through a quick series of oaths and rituals, you are led to a nondescript house among a row of identical houses. A plain door among a row of identical doors. The arsonist taps out a complex knock. The door creaks open, revealing a pink-faced, middle-aged man in dull brown robes. Clutching a bottle of wine, he glances at you suspiciously. Who's this? Then he notices the fog standing behind you, and his face falls further. Moina, he hisses. How could you bring that thing back here? Don't take that tone with me, Percy, snaps Moina, and the man shrinks back nervously. The jig's up, they're sworn to secrecy, and I think we owe them an explanation. At the very least. Now, let us in. We can push our way in, the woman called Moina trails after you, or we can introduce ourselves. No need to be impolite. Besides, there's wine at stake. Oh, well, we're going to introduce ourselves. This way, says Moina, pushing past the spluttering man in robes. Following her through the hallway, you could hear the sound of chanting. Many voices speaking in... Is that Endo-Chian? You push open door after door. The chanting grows louder and louder. The walls are scrawled with amber spirals and hung with flags of gold and autumn leaf orange. Past the furthest door, you find a dozen robed figures sitting cross-legged around a star scrawled in chalk on a bare floorboards. Candles have been placed with care at the star's 7 points. One robed figure swings a censer, pacing around the group. The air is numb with fumes. Silence falls. Who is this? Demands the man holding the censer. Before you can explain your presence, the man-shaped fog follows you into the room. The occultist's jaws drop in recognition. Is that him? Someone mutters. It is, says Moina. Or perhaps only his shade. Once the muttering dies down, he turns to you. You are standing amid the most senior hierophants of the Order Hermeticus. Aurore. Ask your questions. It's going to be the bloody Golden Dawn or something. Funny feeling I'm starting to recognise this from somewhere. With the exceptions of Moina, the robed men and women are glaring at you like something small and disgusting that the cat dragged in. Your presence here is distinctly unappreciated. Let's inquire about their beliefs. Why not? What are they doing here? Why all the secrecy? After all, there are far stranger practices in modern London than this. The 3 founders of our order claimed to have recovered ancient manuscripts from the Elder Continent, says Moina. We were told they contained secrets, the hidden tarot, the forbidden names of angels, the movements of 1,000 stars. We were told only they could translate the manuscripts, and they imparted these teachings to us, morsel by morsel. All lies, mutters one of the robed figures. Moina nods, a mouth twisting bitterly. None of it was real, none of it worked. So we found a new path. Just one star to worship. Every night we dream of the glory that awaits us all. She looks up at you from beneath the shadows of her cap, and the light catches her eye. They glint gold. Oh, are these new sequences? And where are these manuscripts? Burned, says Moynia, with immense relish. All burned now. Well, damn. Let's ask about the Selinus chess set. You describe the chess set to Moynia. Did it belong to their order's founder? Moynia's mouth curls into a sour smile. Ha! Yes, that damned chess set. He used to play with it all the time. Alone. Claimed he was playing against the spirits of intellect. Called himself a grandmaster, though I never saw him play another living soul. Let's ask about the enlightened grandmaster. How long has he been absent? To have his house repossessed? And most importantly, why is he now fogging up your living room? The three men who founded our order went on an expedition to the Elder Continent, Moira says. This was after doubt had settled in throughout the order, after we began questioning the manuscripts. They claim they would find the Presbyterians who wrote them, and prove that they were genuine. And? The Grandmaster never came back, says Moynia. The other two did, but they were changed men. They quit the order upon their return and never spoke to us again. Perhaps they'll know more about what happened to the Grandmaster. One of them served as the Crown Coroner, even while he was a member of our order, interjects a robed occultist. The other's a famous horticulturalist. They'll be easy enough to track down. Now why don't you go and do so, and leave us in peace? Okay, let's ask about the moribund coroner. At the mention of his name, the occultists exchange uncomfortable glances. One makes the sign of a cross. The coroner contracted animescence during his travels in the Elder Continent, says Moynia. His survival the last few years has been nothing short of miraculous, but sooner or later it will claim him. He's being looked after at the Aminescence Hospital on Hemlock Row. Aminescence is the same thing that we are dealing with in our Sun the Seas playthrough, isn't it? One of the characters. Let's ask about the ex-occultist horticulturalist. You've never heard of him. You assume he's only famous by horticulturalist standards. He works at the Botanical Reserve in Tyrant's Gardens, says one of the robed women. Tending the kind of plant that can swallow a goat in a single bite. He was the only one who came back from the Elder Continent, unharmed, says Moynia. Some call that luck. I'd call it cowardice. He never came back to our order either. Okay, so now we can leave the occultists to their ceremony. We're a secret group. They've been remarkably forthcoming. You wouldn't want to overstay your welcome, especially when one of them starts sharpening a knife. As you turn to leave, the occultists resume their Endochian chanting. The man-shaped fog steps towards Moynia for a moment, extending its misty hand in plaintive gesture. Moynia glares at it and turns away. The fog follows you dejectedly out of the house. And with that, I am going to end the first episode of this exceptional story. Thank you very much for being here. Please like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think. Your comments are greatly appreciated. And as always, I'll see you next time.